So I want to tell you the why story and a little bit about what. If you can go back to the, one slide back, because I don't want you to spoil the fun, so let's go back. So I'm Polish, but I had the chance to build different kind of businesses, both in the emerging Europe, because 20 years ago, Poland was one of the poor, well, it was poor. We had a GDP per capita of around $3,000 per person. And right now we're the 7th biggest economy in the whole Europe. So I could see the country growing very fast in a span of one generation. And then I also had experience building different businesses in sub-Saharan Africa. So as crazy as it gets, including Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. So I could see the boring, organized, very competitive Europe and the Wild West of the world when it comes to Nigeria. And then I've noticed that Dominican Republic is like perfectly in the middle because it has the best of both worlds. I was living in Cape Town back then, living the time of my life as a single guy. Then I've met this lady by accident in a hotel, and I asked her, where are you from? Because I already knew she's gonna be my wife. She says, I'm from Dominican Republic. I'm like, where the hell is that? Basically, a week later, I was in Dominican Republic, and she told me, I'm not going to show you the places everyone goes. I'm going to take you to Samana. And then she took me there the next day, and I landed there, and I looked left and right, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like Hawaii or Thailand, just without the people. We moved there a few years later, and I was working on my laptop, still managing my businesses remotely, and I looked left and right. I was living in Las Terrenas, and that's true. Like, there are so many Europeans. It's such a European vibe. It's a great city to live in. But what I've noticed is that they are all old. There were no digital nomads. There were no younger people running their businesses online, which is an emerging group of demographics as well. So I go back to my friend, who at that time I know. He's not mentioned here, but he's a very important part of our group. He has been the managing director of JLL. You probably know JLL. For the last two decades, for the whole Latin America. He has opened all JLL offices in Latin America. He says, why would you be bored with such a small project? Think bigger. What about we build a town? I'm like, what are you talking about? A town? But okay, allow me to listen. So Samana Group has been in the market historically for already more than 15 years, although the brand is new because I've decided to sell all my businesses and invest in Samana Group. But the companies which belong to my partners and shareholders have almost 20 years of history in Samana. But we didn't start as real estate developers. We started, and now we can go to this slide. Sorry for this map, but you've already seen the peninsula, which is around 800 square kilometers, which is around maybe 80,000 acres. We didn't start as real estate developers or hoteliers. We started as land surveyors and as a law firm. Because 20 years ago, Dominican Republic had to go through a reform where every landowner had to formalize its ownership. Because the land was owned because there was a handshake between the neighbors. So the government got a lot of money from the World Bank, including the American government as well, but the condition was you have to formalize your land titles and ownership because the wealth of the nation comes from owning a land because you can then mortgage it and so on. So none of the farmers in Samana had the money to pay the law firms or the land surveyors. So my partners back then decided, let's not charge them money, let's charge them land. So you're looking at 1,500 plots of land with a total of 10,000 acres, and we own 20% of each of this plot, and the other 80% is owned by a very friendly to us owner who is willing to develop this land according to our master plan. And this is the basis of our master plan, not only for one or two communities, but for the whole town. We're talking about 10,000 people. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to go back. So the first thing that makes us special as a developer is that we control a lot of land. And if you want to control chaos, especially in an emerging market, you want to control the land. The second thing that makes us special is we control the construction. Our shareholder and investor is a company called Constructora Lugo SRL, which is a 30-year-old civil engineering company from the Dominican Republic. Not sure if you know, but Dominican Republic has a subway station in Santo Domingo with 30 stations. They've built 3 of them. They've also built a highway from Punta Cana to La Romana, very experienced civil engineering company. And when Megan was mentioning the master plan of the whole Samana Peninsula, it was done by the Dominican Republic president that basically said, we want to keep Samana special. We want to build a new towns in harmony with nature. We have hired the same architects who have done the master plan for the whole Samana Peninsula for the Dominican president. They are also known in the US because the Boston airport and the Dallas airport was built by them, designed by them, Louis Vidal. Our second very important architecture studio is called Tractor Arquitectura. Who has here been in Tulum, Mexico? Everyone. Tulum has many reasons to love this town, but it has also many reasons to hate the town, because somewhere down the line, Tulum has lost its grip on the infrastructure and the life quality, especially for the residents. So we have hired an architecture studio who has been in Tulum for 15 years, and we're learning from their mistakes of how to build a community from scratch that has this artistic jungle vibe, but also does not lose the very promise it started with. We can go to the next slide. So coming back to more detailed, obviously the big master plan is divided into smaller stages. I'm going to talk about first stage, which is called the Nomad City Community. It's a community of 120 flats for nomad cities. This is your typical second home or third home when you're living in New York, in Toronto, in Montreal, or in Chicago. Why? Because this is all 3-4-hour flights from you. When we've done our analysis, the psychological barrier to have a second home or a third home is this 4-hour flight and not more than an hour drive from the airport. And if New York is Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire, then Samana is Renée Zellweger. We complete you. Because New York is amazing, but it's also expensive, loud, and toxic. And if you want to have a second home getaway, you want to fly to Samana. So what makes us special is the pricing. Our flats are from $150,000 to $400,000, which means we're not selling a finished apartment, finished, bring your luggage, including TV and tampons in your bathroom, for $3,000. We offer seller financing, which means you pay 50% and then you can pay the rest for the next 5 years. And we also offer rental management. So anyone that makes $100,000 per year cannot tell you that they cannot afford our product, because we go after affordable luxury. We can go to the next slide. When it comes to interior designs, think of your Tulum-style boho, so a lot of wood, concrete, and greenery. We can go to the next slide. Couple of different plots from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom to lofts for all those New York single guys that want to have a nice. We don't have a big door, but we have a loft. We're looking at the demographic of New Yorker, of someone living in Miami, Toronto, and Montreal. And we believe we know that demographic very well, because in our holding, we have 6 hotels, which have been operating in the Samana Peninsula for the last 10 years. So we have an aggregated database of more than 20,000 clients that have been visiting us for years from these regions. So we know what they want, more or less. This is the first master plan. So just like with Mike, we focus on hill product, because there are stages of falling in love with the Caribbean. Like, first of all, you want to have a house on the beach. Like, that's all you care about, especially if you were living in Midwest all your life, right? For me, from Poland, I thought when I went to my first all-inclusive resort in Punta Cana that this is game over. Like, it doesn't get better than that. But after some time living by the beach, you realize that maybe it's too loud, maybe a little bit too much sand, too much tourists, and so on and so on. So at some point, you want to be on top of everyone. You want to have the view. You want to have the breeze. Because if you're building above 100 meters above the sea level, you also have different climate and no mosquitoes and so on. Because we have so much land, we can afford not to develop more than 10-15% of all the land. And the rest we keep green. And our focus is, you always have a view of the ocean, or the bay, or the national park. You never have the view of the other neighbor. That's our focus. So this is the stage 1. If you're going to start visiting us from August, and all we want for you is to come, if you're serious enough to pay your own flight, you can stay in our hotels for free for a weekend, without free bar on the alcohol. Because the photos, they don't do the justice. By the way, 4th biggest gold mine in the world is in the Dominican Republic. So it's a very, very structured country and diversified when it comes to different economy sources, which is very good for someone that wants to stay longer, not for your weekend tourist, but for someone that wants to be a resident. And that's also Samana. In the Samana master plan, the focus is on residents, not your weekend tourists, not your week tourists, because we already have Punta Cana. And the numbers say it very clearly. 10 residents bring more value to the community in a week than 1,000 passengers coming for a dinner from the passenger ship. And Samana is supposed to be this new place for residents that care about the local community, but also the nature. And also coming back to the whole concept of Samana Group, we take a lot of inspiration from Irvine Ranch in California, in Orange County, which is one of the coolest private cities to be developed and organized in the United States. Top 10 cities to live in the United States. Sandy Springs, Ave Maria in Florida. Bad branding, by the way. But the ambition is to come and become a publicly managed company and list it on the New York Stock Exchange in the time to come, because we believe that now worldwide there's enough of healthy, wealthy, but also conscious clients who will pay more for us to use more expensive technology and who will pay more to keep more land green rather than just focusing on that beachfront. And that's the target we're going after. Thanks so much.